Hello, all. So, I want to talk today about regret aversion. Fancy term, very simple concept. The first, regret. You all know what regret is, the feeling of sadness and loss, and I'll cover that a little more in a second. And then aversion, which is simply a fear. So, it's a fear, basically, it's a fear of loss, regret aversion. And so, I want to start today with a mind journey. That's the way I want to start things off. So take a deep breath. Relax. Have a smile. All the worries of the day, they're gonna drift. Think of a paperclip on a beach. That's gonna be your paperclip on a beach. Okay, we're ready. So the year is 2005, and you like computers. You're a little nerdy, a little geeky. You hear of this cool new thing called Bitcoin, where you can use your computer to mine coins, and then in theory they're worth money. How crazy! And you're like, this is cool. I want to see what the future, the dystopian future where there's no money looks like. So you set up your computer, and you have it run overnight for a couple months, and you install the Bitcoin blockchain, and you mine, and you mine about 1,000, 2,000 bitcoins, and they're worth about a tenth of a penny a coin. So you mine for a little bit, and you have a couple bucks. That's kind of cool. That's fun. And you put it on a hard drive, and you kind of forget about it. You check in 2011. A couple years later, and if these years are wrong, don't blame me. Let's just pretend the years are right, okay? Maybe Bitcoin started in 2011. I don't really know when Bitcoin started. In fact, it definitely wasn't 2005. Okay, let's assume instead that you started in 2011, and then you went away. So now and so then in 2014 or something, you get out your old hard drive, and you remember, oh my God, I have 1,700 Bitcoins on here. And you check, and instead of being worth a tenth of a penny, they're actually worth like 8 cents a piece. That's like you got a couple $100 there. You're like, oh, I should hang on to this. And finally, it gets up to like $1. Like a couple months in, you're like, whoa, $1,700. That is some real money. And so you sell your Bitcoin, $1,700. And you take that, and you're super happy. I mean, it's free to you. You were just messing around before, and now you have this awesome free $1,700, and you use it to pay off some credit card debt. So, whatever. And then today, you check the price, the Bitcoin price, and I will do this right now. So I'm like, man, so I had 1,700 Bitcoin. What would that be worth today? And you look it out and you go, oh my God. Oh my God. 1 Bitcoin today, which is November 22nd, 2017, is worth $8,196. I was sitting in law school, and I had my computer, and I was like, I wonder if I should spend $100 and buy a bunch of Bitcoin, because it's probably going to be worth a bunch in the future. And I'm the only one who knows about it because I'm nerdy and I keep track of this stuff, and it would be something cool. And I was like, do we really want to spend a couple $100 on a currency that's probably going to be reconsumed by Dogecoin or something, that's some other currency, and it's not going to be worth anything? And I didn't. So I'm feeling the same regret aversion that you are feeling, because your 1,700, okay, your 1,700 Bitcoin in today's dollars would be worth $13.9 million. $13.9 million. And in fact, there are all sorts of people online who this very thing happened, and they had 2,000 Bitcoin early, and they sold it all when it hit 8 cents a Bitcoin. And they're like, oh wow, this is insane. I made a couple $100 on this. Like, whoa. And now it's worth $14 million. That is regret aversion. That feeling where, why didn't I just do the thing and the thing, And so the next time that you come across a similar situation where there's something that could be valuable, but maybe it's not, but it could be, but maybe it's not, but it could be, you are going to think back to when this last happened to you, and you're going to have such anger and resentment and guilt and frustration, all these emotions, hint, 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 all these emotions, and that will color your decision moving forward. So the next time you come across this decision, you will not make a rational choice. You will make an irrational choice because of your fear of regret aversion. Your regret aversion, your fear of loss, you don't want to feel these feelings again, these feelings of stupid and self-loathing that you sold too early, and so you will make a what to the AI computer would program would consider a unrational, strange decision. Behavioral economics, that's what we talk about. So we talk about the weird decisions that we make because we're human and we're animals and we have emotions and we do things not rationally but emotionally. And so regret aversion is a really big part of that. So that's, I mean, I think regret aversion in the blog post I have coordinated with this. Oh my God, I almost called it an episode. Is this an episode? Do I have episodes? Ooh, I kind of like that. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna call it an episode. In this episode, I used a Shaq basketball card, but we've all had all kinds of situations where if only we had waited. So I'm gonna back this up with a little research that will provide a little more clarity on the situation. So that's the idea of regret aversion, and it's a really, really powerful idea. And we're gonna talk a lot about the fear of loss. And, the fear of loss is probably better worded as regret aversion. And the problem is that it's not just one thing, I wish I could say, it's like if you have an appendicitis, you remove your appendix, you don't have appendicitis. A lot of the stuff that happens in the brain is not that simple. It's not a matter of just of one little thing doing one little thing, I remember, if you remember early in biology, you learned about the little, the pea pods. I think it was Mendel who had the different, who discovered, okay, so if I cross the brown peas with the brown peas, then I get brown peas. But if I cross one green with a brown, then I get a green. So the green must be dominant. And so I think when we think about the human body, a lot of times we default back to, okay, blue eyes are recessive, and so you have to have two blue eye genes to get the blue eyes, but if you have one dominant that's brown, then it's going to be brown. It's just like this very clean, it's very clean, it's very cut and clean, and you have a nice little chart, and you're here or here. And of course we're humans, and we're messy, and we're animals, and it just doesn't, we're not engineered that way. I mean, we're not engineered, but we're not engineered, that's the point. And so things just aren't clean like that. So when we talk about the fear of loss, I wish I could just say that it was just like this one thing, this one emotion, this one, you release this one chemical in a certain way. But it's this whole combination, stew, way of place of being that reflects all of your past experiences all at the same time. It's really beautiful, really, if you think about it. I don't know if any of you saw Arrival, but in a lot of ways, we're currently already doing that. When we experience fear of loss, we experience those emotions because of life experiences and our parents and everything in our lives interconnected together, and that's why the brain is awesome. So, that stew, that pot, that of feelings and emotions based on past experiences, especially when it comes to fear of loss, that creeps into all these different situations. So we're going to be talking about the fear of loss in a bunch of different ways, and it creeps into so many different papers. And a lot of people talk about cognitive biases. That's another way to phrase it. I actually don't like that term, cognitive bias. I mean, it's fine. I'm going to use it because that's what people use. I think it's a little complicated for people to understand. It's a little difficult to explain. I like saying weird human quirks. Like I think that's a thing. People are like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, like strange things we do because our human brains are weird. Instead of but if you want to call it cognitive bias, that's I guess the more professional term to talk about things. And so, a lot of those biases stem from this come from the same well. They come from this kind of same emotional well. And regret aversion, which is our topic. Sorry, I got so off topic, but regret aversion is the first of many. So, but let's just stick with this tiny little box, fear of loss, and then inside of it, regret aversion specifically, which is that feeling of regret. So it's not just loss, but it's loss because we did something that we now regret. So there's a study done by Seeler, Traub, and Harrison, and again, fingers crossed I pronounced those correctly. I'm sure I did not, and apologies, called Regret Aversion and False Reference Points in Residential Real Estate. And again, great name for a paper. That's actually, we'll get to some really fun names later. And I'm already rubbing my hands together in excitement. That one's actually pretty straightforward. So their study was very simple. They just wanted to measure regret aversion, and to do so, they came up with a series of questions. Now, ideally, every single study that you could do would be like the last episode that we did, which was the sales of the Hershey chocolate at the counter. And in some ways, that's the best study. The real world, I'm out there, I'm doing an experiment in the field. And that's maybe like the highest quality stuff. And below that is stuff in a lab, and then, but you can't measure everything by how many Hershey's chocolate bars do you purchase, So a lot of studies that we do use questionnaire data. And I should make a little asterisk that questionnaire data has its flaws in that it requires the human to respond to it. And humans, again, messy creatures, sometimes you get strange stuff. However, it can be set up really smartly where the subjects or participants, the people who are participating in the study, they may not be aware of the true study's purpose. So there are ways you can set it up to get honest answers from people that minimize the risk of people writing down weird answers because humans are weird. So I feel pretty good about, I don't want to get too far into, I'll let you go on YouTube and research how to create, quality academic journal, or like research and stuff. That's a whole, I'm not even going to get into that. And all these people doing these studies are really, really smart at some of the leading academic institutions. Everything I do here is peer reviewed. I don't want to say that for certain, but at least the vast majority of papers that I'm going to talk about are peer-reviewed in academic journals. So this is in some ways, the pinnacle of academic research. I'm just saying, first of all, you can pick your you can quibble with some stuff about academic research, and I think that's the last thing I'm going to talk about that. Okay, so. This is so tangenty. But the paper, Regret, Aversion, and False Reference Points in Residential Real Estate. They created this questionnaire to create a scale from 1 to 9 to measure regret aversion. 1 being low regret aversion, 9 being a very high level of regret. And they gave them this hypothetical situation, and I'm gonna read it to you, so just to make sure I have it right. Okay. So subjects were told that they purchased a home for $200,000 5 years ago. Okay, so you purchased a home for $200,000 5 years ago. Today, it's worth $300,000. So yay, right? You gained $100,000 in the interim. So that's the setup, and then they had 2 conditions. Again, we talked about conditions last time. Conditions, again, you're cutting people into groups to see if there's a difference between the groups, and that way you can measure your effect. So in this one, this is a 1 by 2. Again, 1 being 1 level, 2 being 2 conditions. Again, if it's a 2 by 2, it would be 2 levels, 2 conditions per level. So this is a 1 by 2. So it's just 1 level, 2 conditions. The first condition was called the omission condition. And in this condition, they found out that 2 years ago, okay, so again, the house, you bought it for $200,000, now it's $300,000. 2 years ago, actually, you could have sold it for $350,000, an extra $50,000, but you weren't aware that you could have sold it for then. It was there, but you didn't know. Okay, so that's the first one. The second condition was called the commission condition. So in this condition, they knew 2 years ago that they could have sold it for $350,000. So again, you bought it for $200,000. Today it's worth $300,000. 2 years ago, you knew that you had a buyer for $350,000, but you didn't pull the trigger. It was at $350,000, and you thought, "Ooh, I'm gonna hold out. I bet you I can get $400,000 in a couple of years." Instead, it dropped to $300,000. So you knew it and you blew it. Whoops. Now, at the end, everyone sold the house today for $300,000. So everyone bought the house for $200,000 and sold it for $300,000. Everyone makes $100,000. There should be, again, the AI computer program would say, the humans should feel no difference between the two, because each of them, the house was worth $200,000 and then $350,000 and then $300,000, and they sold it. It's literally the exact same value of the house in both situations. The only difference being, in one condition, the people knew they could have sold it and didn't. And in the second condition, people were not aware that they could have sold it for that higher amount. But in both conditions, again, everything else is the same. The price of the house, $200,000, $350,000, $300,000 is the same. So, in theory, you would find no difference in the amount of regret that people would answer. And of course, there was a difference, because otherwise I wouldn't be talking about it. So, overall, people who could have sold the house but didn't had higher levels of regret aversion. Higher levels of regret, period. So again, on that 1 to 9 scale, people who were aware of the higher price and could have sold, but were like, I'll wait out, they had a regret score of 5.08 as their median regret, statistically significant. Whereas people who, they found out later, oh, you could have sold, but you didn't know about it at the time, they had an overall regret score of 4.69. So 4.69 versus 5.08. So it's not like, it's not as big as we talked yesterday about the free effect and the huge shifts in Hershey's. And this is a median change, but that is statistically significant, and it is a difference. So the bottom line is people feel more regret when they feel they lost something. Again, people feel more regret when they feel like they lost something. And to a certain extent, this makes sense. If that same, in the Bitcoin example I gave, if I didn't, let's say Bitcoin crashes down to a penny again. If I didn't know, if I wasn't aware that it went high and then went low, I would feel bad, sure. But it's like, it's kind of an act of God a little bit. Or in this house example, right? There was a buyer out there that would have bought for $350,000, but I didn't know about him. It was an act of God, Jesus took the wheel and went in a different direction. I didn't know how. So I'm not going to feel bad about that because I never had it. Whereas, I was going to sell the house. I had the paperwork was in my hand. I could have sold it for $350,000. Now it's only worth $300,000. Like I could have made an extra, $50,000. It was in my hand and I let it go. How stupid am I? So, having a sense of ownership of the decision, having a sense that it's there for the taking, you just have to reach out and do it. But then you don't. People will have higher level of regret, and that will inform their decisions moving forward. So in real world advice, this is just another tool for your behavioral economics tool belt. I was trying to think of good examples of when you use this. For example, if you don't want people to sell a lot of their stock, or if you want people to, not sell their property or something, um, there's a lot of ways you can do this, but making them feel that, giving them opportunities to sell a lot, and then differentiating it with, yeah, but people who did, they messed up. They should have they should have held on, or they should have sold, whichever way. You can go either way, right? In this condition, people should have sold, and in the Bitcoin condition, you should have held on. So whichever way you want to go, they should have gone this way, but you didn't, and now you lost. And like telling those, especially in story form, because stories are really powerful, could be a good strategy to keep people from selling, or to encourage people from selling, right? So if you're Charles Schwab and you get money on commissions and you want a lot of commissions, try running a lot of stories about, I didn't sell, and I lost it all. Like, it was so high and I had it, but then it crashed, and blah, 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 right? Now, in some ways, if you're Charles Schwab, maybe you don't want to do that because you don't want to make your customers scared and feel bad about investing and the risks of investing. And in a lot of ways, maybe the message is better that the stock market just goes up every year and it's guaranteed money. And so I'm not, I'm not saying that that's the best for Charles, but that just as an example, you don't always have to use your table saw, but you have it, right? So it's just another tool that you can use to help influence and modify behavior using behavioral economics, and that's why it's so cool. So again, that paper was Regret, Aversion, and False Reference Points in Residential Real Estate. And I should note that in that paper, there's a lot more detail about other subgroups. Women were a little more susceptible than men, and I'm not going to get into that because some of that was not statistically significant. And if it's not statistically significant, might be interesting, but I mostly discard it because we are only talking about the very best, the creme de la creme of economic modeling and statistics. So I hope you enjoyed this. That is Regret, Aversion. We are going to talk so much more about fear of loss and about anticipation of gain and regret, aversion, and emotions, and especially about this stuff. But I thought it was a really good place to get started. It's kind of a really good all around. It's an easy thing to explain. We've all experienced that. Why didn't I sell or buy or whatever it was? So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, again, you can email me, info@theteambuilder.com. I'll have links in the description below, or something like that. I think I'm going to start calling them episodes. Why not? This was a lot of fun, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you.